So White's just released the premium version of their very popular, the People's Champ, everyone's favorite mock toe, the Perry mock toe boot. So they sent it to me to get cut in half to see what's on the inside, but more importantly, to show you the difference between the regular Perrys and the premium Perrys, which one you might consider, which one is best for which application, and most importantly, how does it rank on the MITUSA scale? Because it's under 400 bucks and it's made in the United States of America, so it qualifies. And thanks to White's for sponsoring this video. The style is the Perry Select. They weigh 2 pounds even, and they retail for $390 for the 6-inch and $400 for the 8-inch, compared to the regular Perrys at $325 for the 6-inch and $335 for the 8-inch. And obviously they're made in the United States. So why do they make the Perry Select when the regular Perry has been so popular and a lot of people consider it their favorite mock toe, and it has the sweet spot on price and quality and durability and look? Well, we asked White's and they said, we wanted to offer a mock toe style for our customers that appreciate a more traditional White's build. All leather construction and premium leather options, more of a heritage mock toe. So then what is it about the Perry that people love so much? Because when White's released the Perry a few years ago, we did a video on it and the boot world kind of went crazy. And it was one of the very first boots that White's had made in this price point. And at the time, there was really 3 main mock toe boots out there in this style. There was the Thorogood that was affordable, but had tons of synthetic materials. There's the Red Wing mock toe that's heritage through and through, but not nearly as comfortable. And then there's the Thursday that's really good looking, but not durable enough for work. So when the Perry first came out, it basically fixed all those problems with a single boot. It was comfortable, it was affordable, it was heritage, it was good looking. But when we cut it in half, there's a few little things that people had issues with that weren't quite making it the perfect mock toe. There was some room for improvement. And a couple of those things were the cardboard synthetic counter. People had some issues with the integrated shank in the actual outsole itself. People had it popping and sometimes they'd wear through it sooner. And since then, to White's credit, they've changed that and they've replaced it with a synthetic shank in the midsole, which has solved that problem. And one thing that bothers me that I've never seen anyone else complain about, it's mostly just because I have tiny little dainty ankles. I don't like when 6-inch boots only have 2 speed hooks because I can't tighten it down all the way, and so I can't undo them really fast and tighten them really fast because my ankles are so skinny. So now I'll start going through this boot and figure out what they've changed, what they've improved, and is this still the People's Champ? Well, let's start with the leather, because that's one of the biggest differences, because the original Perry is made on work leather. You know, it's good leather, it's super thick, it's durable, it's really rugged looking, but it is far from a beautiful, casual, semi-dress leather. So for the Perry Select, they went to Seidel, who's known for making some of the most durable, hardest wearing, longest lasting leathers in the world. So they ended up choosing double shot leather, which is really similar to Horween's Chrome Excel. It's really waxy, has tons of pulp, is beautiful, has all these highlights and lowlights, and it might not be quite as durable as the regular leathers, but it's just as thick. We ran the puncture test, it's really close, very similar results with the work leather compared to the double shot. But the really interesting thing is they went out of their way and chose this specific color that's a different tannage called Tobacco Stampede, because they wanted one leather that had the beauty and the aesthetic of the more heritage style leathers with the double shot, but still was the durable, hardworking leather that they had built the Perry name off of. And the way they chose this leather has a really interesting story, and I think it's worth telling. When White's went out to Seidel to choose a leather a couple years ago, they fell in love with this leather because they noticed a beautifully worn in love seat in their office. And they basically said, that's what we want right there. Can we get that leather, but in boot thickness, and can we put it on our boots? And it's a perfect leather because it matches that classic orangey mock toe color that Red Wing and Thorogood have made famous. And it really balances the durability and support while still being malleable enough that you don't have a crazy break-in. It's a really good leather. So that's part of where you see that price increase, because this style of leather with the double shot and the Stampede, it's a more expensive leather to make because they have to infuse a lot more oils and fats and tanning compounds into it, which takes more time and energy and more expense. So it ends up being a more expensive leather. So I don't think it quite makes up $60 worth. So we'll see if there's something else that makes it worth it. So now let's start looking at the inside. And if you look at the lining, they're identical. If you look at the insole, they're identical. If you look at the midsole, they're both a rubber midsole. If you look at the outsole, they are both now Vibram outsoles, because like we mentioned, they swapped them from that polyurethane-based outsole that had the integrated shank. Now it's the rubber-based Vibram Christie. So then what about the construction? Is that where we're starting to see some of the differences? Well, if you look, they're the exact same welt style, where it's a 360-degree Goodyear welt, which means the way that they attach the upper of the boot to the outsole is done through this strip of leather that has the sewing on it. And there's a little stitch that sews into the inside of the boot that ties into the insole. And then there's this visible stitch that sews down to the midsole. So you have 2 stitches holding all this boot together. And it's a really durable style of construction, and it's a more affordable way of making a boot because you can get automated machines to do some of the process, similar to what we saw in the Westco boots, where they have machines that automatically nail the heel, they have machines that automatically last it. They have machines that sew on the welt to the insole. So that's part of why some of White's boots are $600 and they have this $300 to $400 price range of the Goodyear welted. Does it mean that it's less durable than their other boots? It might be slightly less durable. And a lot of people still consider Goodyear welt to be the most durable construction. So the only difference that we saw from the outside is the difference in the leather in the upper. So there's gotta be something else going on the inside. So let's cut these in half and see what's going on. All right, we got them cut in half, but let's reveal the regular Perry's first so you have something to compare it to. And then to the Perry Select. So what's the difference? Well, one huge thing, and fixes the biggest gripe people had with the Perrys when they initially got released, and that was the cardboard, the synthetic counter, and they've replaced that with a nice, thick leather counter. And it's not nearly as thick as their regular counters that, in my opinion, are a little bit too thick, just a little bit overkill. So this is a little bit on the thinner end and more of what I would like to see in a casual boot that I'm not using for super heavy duty firefighting and logging. So what is the benefit to switching to a leather counter? Well, it's gonna be more durable and it's gonna last longer because at the end of the day, this is just cardboard. And you're not gonna snap that inside of your Perrys because you're not gonna do that to your heel. And it's gonna, you've got 2 layers of leather around it to brace it. But at the end of the day, this is just slightly more fragile and it can absorb water in a different way, and it's just not gonna last the same way that a big solid piece of veg tan leather is going to. And that's the same story with the other main difference, and that's the leather shank, which a leather shank is still gonna give you the support you need. It's still gonna give you some support on ladders, maybe not as much as a steel shank, but more importantly, this leather shank is gonna compress to the shape of your foot. So you can actually get that true full footprint inside of your boot. Where sometimes with a steel shank, if you have a high spot around a steel shank, that high spot's not going anywhere. And to me, the best attribute of having a leather shank is it just builds up that arch support 1/4 inch more. And then I did notice that they use a little bit thicker leather in the newest versions of the Perrys compared to the very first versions in the insole. So that's just gonna give you a little bit more strength, a little bit more compression, and it's gonna be a little bit more durable. So now to the big question, what do you get for 60 bucks extra, and is it worth it? Well, you get the thick leather shank upgrade, you get the thick counter upgrade, you get a little bit thicker insole, and you get a premium leather with a lot more color options, plus the tobacco stampede, which the couch leathers, I love that story. So is it worth the extra $60 to get the Perry Select? Well, I think if you add up all the upgraded materials and consider the extra price they are, plus the extra labor that goes into adding these extra components, I think that $60 price is easily justifiable. But that doesn't always mean that it's right for you, because if you're a boot head, I would say it's definitely worth it. If you are all about the comfort, I would still say it's worth it because you get that extra arch support. But if you're buying these solely for work, you might want to go with the regular Perrys because you're going to save a little bit of money. You don't need the premium upper leather. You might actually want the more durable leather. You might miss the arch support, but you have a stronger, more rigid shank on the inside compared to the leather shank. And so for work, you might want to go with the regular Perrys. But for style and all around aesthetic and casual wear, I still think it's worth the extra $60 just because you get access to the extra premium leathers and you just know deep down inside you've got the better version. So for me, what would Weston wear? I would pay the extra. For me, you know, the $60 premium, I'm already spending $330, $325 for an extra 60 bucks to get exactly what I want. I would end up buying it, to be honest. And as for how they feel and wear compared to the regular Perrys, it's hard to say when they've only been released a couple days and you haven't had time to wear them. And so what White's did is they set up everybody in the shop with the brand new pair of the Perry Select so that we can wear them over 30 days. And then we're gonna do a video on the Rose Anvil 2 channel where we sit down and discuss what was the difference between the two, because some of us have owned both pairs. How do they feel on foot? How do they wear over a 30-day wearing period? So that should be really interesting. And now, enough about future videos. How does this rank on the MITUSA scale? The reason you're all here, who cares about the quality? We wanna know how it ranks. So to give you an update on where we last ended on the MITUSA board, here it is. And if you look at this cross section compared to all of them, this is a tough one because I think you can put it in a couple different spots. But for me, if I were to rank this, I would put it right above the Red Wing 1907 and right below the JK300. But I think you can make an argument to swap this in any of the top 3. Like, it's really close to me as the number 1. It's really, really close. And so I'd really like to hear your guys' opinion on where you think this lands, because if there's enough people that say like, oh, this is number 3 or this is number 1, I might change my official ranking on it. And so now that we know what's on the inside, we got it ranked, we know what it's good for, is this still the People's Champ mock toe boot? I think it is. If anything, I think it's gonna be more popular and more successful, because now those little issues that people had concerns with are completely fixed and upgraded. And obviously it's an upgraded price, but to me, this still, for its price, for the value, for the brand and the look and the durability, everything combined is a hard mock toe to beat. So let me know what you guys think, and be sure to check all the links out in the description. Get yourself a pair of Perrys. And if you get a pair of the Perry Selects and you've had an old pair of Perrys, let me know what your experience is in both, because I'm really curious. So thanks again to Whites for sponsoring this video, and thanks to you guys for making all this possible. These sponsored videos are the lifeblood of the channel. Without these, we couldn't afford to do what we do with all the other videos. So thank you so much for supporting these brands and supporting these videos. It means everything to me. So thank you. See ya.